Mary here with High Song Grows, and this video is about how to collect and store and label your hatching eggs before you hatch, before you're ready to put them in the incubator. So let's see what we're going to do here. Okay, there are 2 eggs in here, and they might have a little dust or dirt or some shavings stuck to them. You just wipe them off. You are not going to wash your hatching eggs. That's going to wash off the bloom. That helps protect them from bacteria. You can see these 2 eggs. This one here looks a little bit smaller than the other one. So I am going to weigh that one when we get in the house. I usually collect eggs in my big bucket. It's got some sawdust pellets on the bottom in case any egg was cracked or leaking. For hatching eggs, then I add an extra basket and a Sharpie. Now, this egg looks a little smaller than this one. So I'm probably going to weigh these when we get in the house. So I'm actually not going to mark these right this minute. I'm going to put them in my basket. But I want to wait till I get in the house so that I can weigh them. I don't want to hatch any eggs that are under 2 ounces. And I have a feeling that this one is probably only 1.8 or 1.9. So I'm going to check that before I mark it, because if it's not big enough to hatch, it can still go in my eating eggs for sale. All right, and this pen has given me 1 egg. You can see we got a little smear on there. And it's dry and crusty. You're not going to wash your eggs, but you can take like a dry scrubby pad. If you got a little glop on there, you can scrub that off or scrape it off. Just do it gently. This egg is from pin number 1, so I'm going to take my Sharpie, and on the big end of it, I'm going to write P1 for pin number 1. And I know that it's my black copper Morans. If I was also, say, had some black copper Morans in an olive acre pen or something, I could mark those eggs as olive acres, or I can mark these as black copper, BCM. So whatever is going to tell you who their parents are. If I'm breeding a single pair, and I have occasionally done that, where I have had 2 or 3 hens cooped separately, and then either males with them or a male rotated between the pens, then I might write the hen's band number on that egg. Just whatever you need to do to keep up so you know which pens gave you which eggs, so that next year you'll know who's related to who and who turned out the best birds. Alrighty, back in the kitchen, and one of the things I will do, I do it with my eating eggs and I do it with my hatching eggs, is I will just write the date that it was laid on the egg with a pencil. Okay, and then you always want to store your hatching eggs big side up, pointy end down. That's because the air cell is in the big end, and we don't want it to get in the wrong place. We don't want it to get sideways, because it's going to be very important when the chick is getting ready to hatch out. It's going to poke a hole in the membrane and put its beak into that air cell so that it can start breathing air. And it will do that even before it starts pecking the shell open. Now I have my little kitchen scale with a bowl, And I have these two eggs that I was kind of questioning if the one is big enough. So I'm going to weigh that egg, and it is exactly 2 ounces. So the other one is probably a little more. Yep, the other one is 2.2. So that's why the smaller one seemed a lot smaller, because the bigger one was bigger. But it just made me think that this one wasn't quite 2 ounces, but the scale tells me otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and mark them and put them with the rest of them. You can see I have these in an egg carton, and I am going to close the top just for space. But one of the things you want to do is you want to turn your eggs every day. And an easy way to do that is just set your carton up on something, one end of it. And then the next day, you're going to flip it around. That helps keep the yolk from getting stuck in one place. And interfering with hatching and development. I'm going to be hatching these in my big cabinet incubator, and when I do that, I will either use cartons like this without their lids on them, or I will use flats, and I'll show you all that when I get ready to load the incubator. But in the meantime, so I've got 18, 19, 21, 2. I'm probably going to collect some of the olive acre eggs, maybe one more day, maybe 2 more days, depends on how many I get. And then we'll continue collecting black copper Moran eggs for a while. Now, you want to store your eggs between 53 and 60 degrees. So that's a little cooler than most centrally heated and air-conditioned homes, and a little warmer than your refrigerator. If they're too warm, they could start slowly developing, which is going to interfere with their development when they go into the incubator. And too cold can retard their development or just like kill the embryo altogether. You don't want to handle them too much. You can lay them down on their sides, but you still need to roll them or shift their position every day so that that air cell doesn't deteriorate or get stuck. You don't want to store your hatching eggs any place where a beam of sunshine might come through a window on them and heat them up, or where there's a draft from a heater or something like that. And you don't want to store them more than about 7 days. After 7 days, the hatchability rate starts going down. Now, I have hatched eggs that had been stored for 10 or 11 days, and some of those hatched, but I didn't have as many hatch as the ones that were only stored for 7. So that's probably about all I can think of as far as collecting and storing your hatching eggs.